I remember just feeling like, fuck yo, and your attitude, I am going to be something.
We should all make sure that we try to get to that point, because I think once you do, you start living in a little bit more peace.
Only freedom you get from financial freedom is the freedom you had that helped you get the bag.
Focus on hitting your goals in every area of your business. Remember, the universe rewards the bold. A leader has to take the risks.
Nita, how are you? You are on mute.
Okay, there we go. I'm phenomenal. Thank you so much for asking. How are you today, Daniel?
All right, I'm doing fantastic. Doing fantastic. So Big Mike. So you know Big Mike, right?
Yes, he is a dear confidant. I consider him something of a mentor and just a genuinely great friend.
He's such a stud. We were
He's,
talking for a long time last night. So yeah,
oh, wow.
he is
Okay.
a total, well, he's one of my best friends, to
Oh,
be
wow. Okay.
quite honest. Yeah, he's one of my closest, uh, male, really good friends. And so, but yeah, no, he couldn't stop talking about you, and he thought you were the
Mhm.
best thing since sliced bread. And he
Oh,
said, you got to get her on, and she's going to be awesome, and everything. So
thank
yeah,
you.
he spoke very, very highly of you. And I'm excited about talking about the drop cut. Tell me about the drop cut. How did this happen? Where did it happen? What do tell me, give me a little backstory here.
Well, I was a single mother or am a single mother, but when I started the company, I had all three of my kids at home. One of my children has special needs and a single sole supporting mother. I did not have child support coming my way. Their father is in another state and just it was just me plus three for basically 20 years.
So are you
So
saying this guy, or so are you saying this guy from out of state, what, they can't get money to another state? Is this like
no,
is there some sort of technological problem why a father cannot take care of his kids
no.
financially? Is there like something wrong with this guy?
What it is, and I'm just gonna put it as diplomatically as possible because if I speak freely, I don't want to seem like I'm throwing anybody under the bus. But I'll
Okay,
say
no.
this: when I went through my divorce, it was not my choice. Um, and when he divorced me, he divorced all of us. That's the simplest way to put it. When child support did come my way, I had to go to court to get it, and then he would pay just enough to stay out of jail, and then it would stop coming again, and I'd have to start the whole process all over. So after three hearings of child support, they finally, put out a warrant for his arrest because he did not adhere to the judge's demand for they call it a, I forget what the payment's called, but basically where
Child,
they take all,
yeah.
yeah, but like the back support, they give them a certain amount, a percentage that they have to pay by a certain date, and he didn't do that. So a warrant went out for his arrest. And when the warrant went out, he got arrested, but then they let him go because he went into cardiac arrest in the car, and they didn't want to deal with Phoenix PD didn't want to deal with the HIPAA violations or responsibilities. So since the state didn't want to deal with it, they were like, "Well, we'll put it off on the hospital," and they dropped him off at the hospital, and they dropped my case.
Wow. No, I just I have a big problem with that, because I was raised by a single mom,
Mm,
and I don't, of course I don't know all the finances of exactly what happened, but I just know child support was not the number one thing happening there. And I think a lot of uh dads, they get away with
yeah,
not paying what they should be paid. Because I mean, if you were living in the household, you got to take care of these kids 24/7. So like
I took
what
care of
what
him 24/7. He wasn't even living in the state.
yeah, I mean, but I'm just saying, like, as a father, I mean, what's wrong with these men? And I know we're gonna get back to all the good stuff here, but
Yeah, yeah,
I want to hit on this because I just really think, men that are no longer, look, divorces happen. I mean, 50% of the time
right.
divorces happen. So shit's gonna happen, nothing's perfect. But if it does happen, like, how could you leave your child and your, this woman that you loved at some point, you had some kids with this person, right? How could
Mhm.
you leave them out in the cold with no money, with no support, with no, I mean, to me, you are the lowest. I mean, these type of men are the lowest of the lowest human beings. And I'm not talking about him specifically. You can have your own
Right.
judgment on that, but I'm saying any man that does
That leaves
that,
this child. Yeah.
yeah, like you're a pathetic human being, in my opinion. So there's my soapbox for the day. But
No. Yeah.
anyways,
I want to just wrap that with, or conclude that with, um, you know, when men do that, I've often, had many distraught and angry moments, but really when I think in depth about it, I'm like, that is the seat of your loins. You've walked away from literally a piece of yourself that you put in the world. In order to do that, you have to be completely disconnected from yourself, which means that these are people who are scattered. I'm not making excuses, and I definitely don't make excuses for my ex deadbeat. But it's there's a lot of trauma and a lot of things that I know that word gets thrown around, but I'm in behavioral health as well. And unfortunately, when people are that disconnected from themselves and they're not willing to do the work to make their way back, they don't give themselves a shot, and they can't give anybody else a shot. So they're gonna destroy literally any relationship they come into contact with, because they are a walking path of destruction within themselves. And so it's just an inevitable outcome. Unfortunately, that's who he was when I was married to him, and that's who I was. I just started doing the work, and to not put myself on a soapbox above him, because I don't think I'm above anybody. But I think it took a lot of facing my own inadequacies, my own fallacies, and where those fallacies and inadequacies had derived from, in order to connect more to me, and get to work, do some demolition work and also do some rebuilding. And I think a lot of people figure, well, if I just make enough money, or if I just, am hot enough, or if I just bang enough people and they give me they think their validation rests in this. And that's what he got lost in the sauce, because we had a $36 million company. He was broke when I met him. He became a multimillionaire while we were together, and then he bounced. And when that all went down, it was the money coming in. And a man who is a great man told me once, he said, Nita, he said, men are not made by their money, they're revealed by it. And he said, your husband was always this. He said, but now he has a license to show it. When you don't have a license to show your ass, you hide it, and you play Mr. Nice and oh, perfect dad. But then when you don't have to do that, because it feels obligatory and it's been fake the whole time anyway, you go back to what feels more normal for you. And unfortunately, the thermostat of normalcy is fucked, to be honest. I mean, sorry to put it so vulgarly, in people when they don't do the fucking work.
right, right. And so where did you come from? I mean, what, I kind of heard you say something, allude to something that you had to put in the work. And so
Oh yeah.
what was your life like? I mean, where was your mental state? What type of trauma did you go through in your life that maybe got you to a point where you really had to reevaluate? And, so explore that a little bit. Tell me a little bit more about that.
When I was a little girl, my mom was, she was a teen mom. Her mother was killed in a car accident while she was pregnant with me. And the only person she had left, which the state sent her to live with, she was in Arizona. I was conceived in Arizona, but then I was born in Detroit, where my grandfather was. And when my grandfather took my mother back to Michigan with him, um, she was a few months pregnant. And when she gave birth to me, he had no interest in her bringing, because my mom's white, my dad's Mexican, but my mom dated black men and Mexican men, and my grandpa was very racist. So I was born into this. My grandpa comes to the hospital. You're not taking that goddamn half breed back to my house, has a big fight with my mom. She's like, I'm not giving my baby up for adoption, because he wanted her to put me up for adoption. And that was what I was born into. But then my grandpa ultimately ended up taking us back to his house, because my mom wouldn't give me up. And then he treated me like the apple of his eye until he died when I was about 14. But all through those years, my mom had, she left her dad almost immediately after I was born, and she went into, she was a hard worker, but she also was in the sex trade, the adult, professional trade, whatever you want to call it. And there were a lot of seedy people, obviously, around her, a lot of abusive people around her. I was subject to that, not just seeing her, but also being at the hands of those people as well. From the age of 5 to the age of 12, I was violated physically, mentally, sexually, and obviously emotionally. That took a huge toll on me. So I just learned to do what I was told, because when you're a child going through that kind of abuse, you know that your only chance of survival, like this is subconsciously what gets built into you as your normal. That's your thermostat of normal. And my thermostat of normal was, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is what I'm here for. If I don't, and if you don't, as a child, when you stand up for yourself, you try to use your voice, you have no agency. And even if you do, you get the shit kicked out of you. I got so many beatings with feet, with belts, with boards. I had flashlights thrown at me. I had shoes thrown at me. Um, I remember being knocked against a wall multiple times. Um, when you're around people who are so disconnected from themselves, they're so unhinged that I'm not saying that, there's an excuse for it, but they're so unhinged. When someone sees red like that, they don't have an attachment to their conscience. Their conscience, that part of their brain is not working, whether it's sociopath, or psychopath, or whatever the clinical diagnosis would be for that person, or not be. In that moment, they're not human, and they're doing inhumane things to a child. And that was what I grew up in. And when I was 12, and my mother actually caught somebody in the act of what was happening for me, she turned off my bedroom light and walked out. And she called me into a room and pretty much interrogated me and made me the villain. And she said, "You must like this if you haven't said anything after all these years." So that was my
Wow.
start.
Wow. 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 Unbelievable. I don't even get it. I don't even understand it. It's so wild. Like where did you grow up? What state?
So I was conceived in Phoenix, born in Detroit. My mother then eventually went back to Phoenix, and we moved a lot. And I wasn't with my mom all the time. She would sometimes send me back to my grandpa. She would send me to her sister. She would send me to her aunt. There were just different people in the family that, would take me for a summer or for a year or for 9 months or whatever. So I didn't always spend that whole time with my mom,
I
um,
mean, I asked this,
after I was born.
I asked like where are you from? Like what it just it's so unbelievable to me because it just doesn't seem real. It's like, how is this still happening in the world right now? Like, who are these people and why are they not being dealt with? Like, what is wrong with our society that we're allowing men to do these type of things to little girls? I mean, I have tried to have some sort of voice in this over the last several years. I actually uh, interviewed a couple of guys on this subject, and one guy, he was actually going to Mexico undercover and different countries undercover to try to help. The movie. What was that movie? Shoot, just went out of my mind. The movie about the cartels and about the
The
trafficking.
human trafficking. I
Yeah,
don't recall
yeah.
the name. I don't go to the movies or watch television for like 20 years, so I
Okay,
wouldn't
all
know
right.
for
So,
sure. But
anyways, it was a big, it was a big movie. I think Angel Films or something like that. But anyways,
okay.
bottom line is that it's still happening. I mean,
Oh, human
how?
trafficking is happening within households. My mother
Yeah,
was
yeah.
trafficking me. Ultimately, that's what that was happening.
Yeah, I mean, but I mean, could you imagine? I mean, can you imagine? I mean, hundreds of thousands of kids are missing in America. Like,
Mhm.
how is this possible? How is it possible that we're allowing little kids to come from Mexico or other countries to come into our country to be trafficked? How are we like, how is that, happening in America?
The people that are attached to these kinds of behaviors are just totally unhinged. I mean, they're not in connection with themselves. They're not in any way, shape, or form um, present of mind. And that type of pathology, it's it's the the disconnection is there's no word there are no words for it. I mean, clinically there's words for it, but the only thing I can say is at that point that person's soulless. It had to take no soul for my mother to interrogate her 12-year-old daughter and to then blame her daughter for what had been happening for years of abuse at the hands of a man she brought into their lives.
So how old were you when you said, all right, enough is enough. I'm not dealing with this anymore. And what sort of struggles did you have kind of as you started to get into adulthood? What sort of like repercussions, uh, you know, were created from this childhood that was, not normal?
So when I was 12 and my mother caught her husband with me, she stayed with him and he ended up robbing a store and going to jail. While he was in jail, this was within a year later. While he was in jail, she met another man and she finally had the gumption to divorce her husband. When she divorced him and met this other man, within a few months, she was traveling for one of the cartels. And while she was traveling and transporting, she ended up getting addicted to crack cocaine and she was also doing heroin. So it's called speedballing when you do crack and you do heroin. It's like this, I don't know what makes either one of those an experience that people would like, but people like it. I have tried crack, just full disclosure, when I was 13 with one of my mother's friends. I didn't like it. But at that time, when she got strung out, I mean, it was only a matter of weeks and she was strung out. I mean, she was gone. She disappeared. I was staying with a woman who was a friend of hers because we weren't living together. She was living with some guy. And when my mom disappeared, the woman said, your mom's not around. I can't get a hold of her. She's not giving me money anymore. So you can't eat here. You can come and stay sometimes. She's like, but I can't afford to feed you. And so at that point, I didn't have anywhere to live. So I was, finding literally like garages of abandoned homes and climbing in the windows and sleeping there at night when it would be raining in Houston, because I was in Houston at that time. Couch surfing, if my friends could bring me extra food from their house at breakfast, I would get food. I was still getting myself to school sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes. And when all of that happened that year, I didn't really have anywhere to go. So towards the end of the school year, I called her sister and I said, look, I don't know where my mom is. I told her what was going on. So I flew then to Los Angeles. I got myself checked out of school. And I remember going into the school to get because back then you had to give your report card and get your immunizations so you could go to the new school, or get your report card and get your immunizations so you could go to the new school.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Well, I
mm-hmm.
wanted to go back to school. I ended up dropping out more or less for the remainder of the year. So about half my school year at the age of 13, I was not in school. And then when I was 14, about half the way year in, we got me into school. When I went into the office of the school to get my report card and my immunization, the lady said, oh, she goes, I didn't realize you had such good grades. And I'll never forget that moment. I think there was something in me that I already had an edge and understanding that this is not going to fucking keep me down. Excuse me. I'm so sorry. I'm dropping F bombs. Is that like not protocol in here? Is that
We we
inappropriate
drop
etiquette?
we drop fucking F bombs all the time. So
Okay.
just let's
Okay.
let's go.
Um,
Let's go. We're not,
so,
this is wealth on the beach, man. We got freedom, choices, and options, baby. So we don't mess
you're my
around. We
vibe.
we got freedom, man. This is freedom. Okay.
Thank you. So yeah, so the lady said, I didn't realize you had such good grades. And I'm like, I remember looking at her like, what are you, a fucking idiot? Like, just because my mom's like messed up doesn't mean I'm stupid. Like, I work my ass off in school. I always had straight A's, at least near all A's, maybe a couple B's, although I did get a D in art one year, because I suck at art. Um,
Wow,
but everything else I'm
that's where I got the A plus plus. So anyway, it was
so
English where I got the D's and the F's. So
Oh,
yeah.
I was in advanced English and I kicked ass in that. I
Wow.
loved it. I loved it. But yeah, I always enjoyed being a great student because that was the one time that my mom would give me really positive attention. So I think as a child, I learned if I just keep my mouth shut, I do what I'm told, and I work, 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 my mom's going to be proud of me. And I think I always wanted my mom's love. And so I remember, I mean, we all do, but I think I worked extra hard for it because I had to. And when I went into the office that day and that lady said that, I think that was where this part of me that was like, you are alone in the world, and this is how people are going to think of you. You are society's throwaway. And I felt that. I felt that from the look on her face, from the sarcasm in her voice. And she had just the slightest tick on her eyebrow where she was kind of like looking at me like examiningly. And I remember just feeling like, fuck you, fuck you and your attitude. I am going to be something. And I just believed that. I knew in that moment I was not going to let this keep me down. And I spent, sadly, this is where trauma doesn't get remedied. It just gets worked. And instead of doing the work, the trauma worked me. And so I was constantly a slave to this idea that if I didn't perform well enough, I wasn't good enough. If I didn't give enough to this person or that person, I wasn't showing up the way I was supposed to. If I wasn't the perfect woman, the perfect wife, the perfect friend, if I didn't show up the way everybody else wanted me to in excess, then I was bad somehow. So I ran from that shame and that guilt and that just impending explosion of you suck, like, because that's what I faced in society and within myself. I just didn't think that I could ever be enough if I didn't make enough money, if I wasn't hot enough, if I wasn't the perfect enough wife, if I wasn't the perfect enough employee, the perfect enough student. Like everything was riding on me being perfect enough and good enough for everything and everyone else. I had no clue as to what was right for me. I was doing the right thing all the time, but didn't know how to do the right thing for me because I didn't even know what the fuck that was.
I'm
So
curious. I'm curious, Nita. Like,
mm,
you know, I hear you. I hear you say that, and the one thing that comes to my mind is, well, I'm curious. Like, would you change anything if you could about your childhood, about your life, about like, what would you change? What would you alter if you could? If you could just snap your fingers. I'm just curious. Just
I think any of us, when we do the work, we obviously wouldn't change a thing. But because I realized that everything that happened led me to exactly where I am now, and I'm very happy in my life today. Um,
that's it. And that's why I ask, is
yeah,
because I feel like, a lot of us have gone through, childhood situations and gone through trauma and, divorces and fighting and, you name it. Right. And, I mean, obviously you're maybe a little bit of a different level of, craziness in your childhood. But I also believe that, well, I'm like you, I wouldn't change a thing. And I
right.
wouldn't change a thing because it's made me who I am today.
Yeah,
And I think that, the reason why you built a multi-million dollar company and the reason why you're still succeeding, the reason why you're still, because even as you were talking about kind of that, I'm going to do everything that I'm supposed to do, and I'm going to overdo it, and I'm going to overlook good, and I'm going to overperform, and I'm going to and even though maybe it's not the healthiest thing, because sometimes we can lose ourselves in that
we do.
type of thinking.
Yeah,
But let's be honest. The reason why you became successful is because you, you did it, and then a little bit more, and then you did it, and then a little bit more, and you were overperforming, you were overworking, you were, because most people, let's be honest, right? I mean, most people sit there and they complain about their lives, and they, oh, poor me, and I have, my parents got divorced and they were fighting, and oh my God, I can never have a great life because, of all the trauma I went through. And then they ruin the rest of their, because, childhood is what, 20 years? Well, that means we got another 80 or 100 years left. I mean, I'm living to 120 at least. So, I mean,
That's
that's
what
my,
I've been saying since I was 6. I don't know where I got that number from,
I
but
know,
at
me
6, I said,
too.
I'm going to live till I'm 120 at least.
Me too. So that means
So
we got,
funny.
so after 20, we got like 100 years left. So why would we ruin the other 100 based on the shit that happened in those first 20? And so
Right.
is that kind of make sense? Are you
Oh
does that
yeah,
make
no,
sense?
I totally agree. I think I have tended in one of my businesses because I'm also in behavioral health, like I said, and in my one-on-one clientele base, I primarily work with entrepreneurs, elite level executives, former military, and former athletes because those are the alpha personality types. They're the self-starters. They will do and do and do like boundlessly, much more than, they're the 1% of work oriented mindsets that they will be the last ones to leave, the first ones to show up. They'll do more than anybody. They don't give a shit about quotas because they're outdoing everybody anyway. That's my personality type for me of me. And I think that when I started doing the work and then turned, the champion system, which is my curriculum for on the mark that I teach in behavioral health and addiction recovery facilities, that curriculum was born out of me doing the work with myself and what I learned through the therapists and the doctors that I worked with. um, and 30 years collectively of studying, how to overcome trauma, right? I think with those personality types, we are in a chronic, there is an upside, you have a very productive life. The downside is you are in this perpetual loop of overcoming your trauma. And so then you don't actually live while you're making all this fucking money and you're banging all the chicks, or you have the hottest wife, or you have the hottest husband, or you have the smartest husband, and you have the perfect kids. You don't even fucking enjoy it because you're so busy trying to outdo everybody. You're like a dog chasing its tail. So it's like you need that high, you need that fixation because that fixes your thermostat back to your level of normal, and your level of normal is constant chaos that you are running from. So it's not much different. And I tell this to all my clients in addiction recovery. I'm like, you think that your life is shit? Oh no, you have it so twisted because the person who chases crack cocaine or heroin or alcohol who needs that high, they're in this chronic state of overcoming trauma by running from the pain of the trauma and by keeping things in chaos that they have to run from. And then it's a loop. And how they run from the trauma or the pain of the trauma is by getting high. It's the same thing with somebody in high performance. If you're a high performance individual and you perpetuate your cycle on the basis of your trauma, and you haven't it's because you haven't addressed the trauma. I used to say, "Oh, it's water under the bridge. It's no big deal. Blah 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 blah. This and this and this. I don't need to use excuses. I can overcome no matter what." Da-da. But that starts to take a toll on your health. I was hospitalized more in my 20s and 30s than I've ever been since. I mean, I can count on one hand what things have been like for me in the last 15 years
Right.
versus what it was my whole life prior. And like, look at it, it's just there's like no, I don't have health issues. I don't have the mental health breakdowns I used to have. I don't have the panic attacks. I went into temporary paralysis from anxiety at one point. That's like, that's not healthy high performance. That's high performance. I got great results. I was Miss National Fitness. I was two-time Miss Fitness Arizona. I was two-time Southwestern Regional runner-up. I was seventh in the world out of 46 countries. I was in magazines. I was on the news. I was training lots of people. I was doing lots of nutrition plans. I worked with lots of doctors. I was so great. On paper, it's awesome. Ask my children what kind of trauma that I caused them that they will spend the rest of their adult lives dealing with because I didn't deal with mine.
It's
That's
just
where the cost
it's
is.
just
It comes at a cost to our children.
yeah, well, that's what I mean, you're talking about when it's just like generational. And I think
Yeah.
it's really sad because it really doesn't ever stop,
No.
and I was a bad kid growing up. Everybody knows that, and I got in a lot of trouble, and never. I mean, I think I knew where the limit was. Thank God, because
Hmm.
I would have, if I would have gotten felonies and things like that, I would have never been able to get, my professional licenses. But the truth is there was probably times that, thank God I didn't get caught doing crazy things as a kid, and because it could have ruined the rest of my life.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is that I look back and I think to myself, uh, all of that happened because of, probably a lot of it happened because of childhood issues and parent
100%.
situations, that kind of stuff. But what happened to me, I think, when I went into business. So at 21, I went into business, and it changed my life, by the way, because I had a real purpose, and I had somewhere that I was going, and I also had a lot of people that were relying on me. So I had to change my life. I had to be different. I couldn't be the same Daniel Alonso that I was the first 21 years. I
Right.
had to be a different, better version of me. And I took all the stuff, and I used to always remember, because my father, he was, didn't keep his word so much, and he'd say he was going to do this, he never did this, he didn't follow through,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. And look, I mean, today he's a totally different man. He's an
Right.
amazing man today, as an older man. But as a child, it hit me pretty hard, and I think that, what I tried to do, at least for me personally, is
Mhm.
I tried to take the best of him and then leave the rest. So there was a lot of great qualities that he had.
Yeah.
I tried to take those great qualities and then just focus on that instead of worrying about or thinking about the bad qualities. I said, I'm just going to be better. Like, for example, I'm one of the most reliable people you'll ever meet in your life. I've been the most reliable person for the last 30 years that I've been in business. And I think my business has done well because everybody knew that I was a person of my word, that I kept my word. If I told you I
Yeah.
was going to be there, I would be there. Not only would I
Yeah.
be there, but I would be there early. If I told you I
Yep.
was going to do something, I would do it. I would come through. And
Yeah.
so, I took the shit that happened, and I just made it.
Flipped it.
Yeah, I flipped it. I
Yeah.
was like, I'm just
Yeah.
going to use it to my advantage. Like, I love that I have two
Yeah.
dads, right? A
Yeah.
stepfather and real father. And I just take the best of them. And then
Yeah.
they're not perfect. No, none of us are perfect human beings. They ain't perfect.
Right.
But
No.
man, I'll just take the best and leave the rest.
I think that's a great way to live our lives. I think it's essential for a happy life. I think where I've always been optimistic in that vein that I took, I always said, even though I didn't have a mother, I had so many different women that I came into contact with that were great role models. And so, you know, the school of hard knocks and me acting like I didn't know what being a woman was because I didn't, I had to teach myself, and I got a lot of bumps and bruises. Um, and a lot of scars figuring it out. But who I am as a woman today, like I'm enamored with my spirit. I'm enamored with my calling. I'm so grateful. I feel so blessed and graced by life. I feel like my life was charmed by all these really invaluable lessons that most people never get the opportunity to have because who would want to go through those things and get those lessons? No, nobody would actually pick it consciously. But I look at it and I'm like, I tell the people that I work with in addiction recovery, when you start or hit the bottom of the barrel, there's rungs. Life is a series of rungs. And there's this ladder, right? That we think we're climbing. But the thing is, some of us are born here, some of us are born here, and some of us are born, right below the top, right? So we could say this is the 1%. Okay, the 1% seldom actually reach it up to here. This is what I call the top of life, which is enlightenment. Okay, it's where we go when we die. But you can actually reach that state and live like you're in heaven on earth, right? So right here, that's where that attitude that you're talking about, we just know everything's all for a cause, da 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 da. But most of these people, they don't see any other area of life. They don't see any of the other rungs. They kind of look at everything and there's like a bird's eye view, but it's not really a very great perspective. So they don't really move. They're pretty complacent and they just sit right here. Then there's the people that are born in the middle. These are the people that, like, they might kind of veer a little bit up or down, up or down, up or down, but they're pretty steady on through, pretty cruising through life. And then there's the people that were born at the bottom. And then, whether you're in the middle, at the top, if you hit rock bottom, and this is speaking to addiction recovery, because some of these people come down here. When you hit rock bottom, you're down here. You're at this magical place that you were when you were born. You have no agency. You're completely at the mercy of God at that point. And you're like, well, let's see what can I do with this? But the difference is you can grab your agency and you can move with it from rock bottom. When you're a baby, you can't because you don't have the tools. So people that are born here, here, or here, it doesn't really matter, especially if you hit rock bottom. When you hit rock bottom, you have to go through all the rungs of life and you might fall down a few and start stepping back up and fall down a few and start stepping. But you're more likely because of all the falling and pushing and pulling, and you have so much more tenacity, so much more perspective, so much more true experience, and so much more strength and agility that you are more likely to get here
Right.
than anyone that was born here because you have all this range of it. You're so much more at an advantage. You're so much more fucking powerful, but only when you realize that it's your peace. You're at the mercy of God right here. You have to move on peace and trust. And if you don't move on peace and trust and you're still moving on your ego, you can get up here, but you're still not going to make it up to here. You can get up here, but you're still not going to make it because there is no room for ego here. There's no room for disconnection and unchanged behavior that you're going to excuse. There's no room for excuses up here. This is all accepting. This is omnipotence. This is love for yourself that emanates outward and onto everything and everyone that you connect with. So you are inherently understanding of your connection to all things. That is enlightenment. When you understand all things, your blood pressure doesn't jump up. Your heart's not racing. Your blood's not boiling. You're not judging. You're not competing. You're not trying to do better than everybody else. You're being. You're being, and you're being through a sense of peace, authentic peace, trust, and leaning toward that calling that is bigger than all of us. That's enlightenment. And people that are born right here are so much less likely than any of these other people down here
Yeah.
are to make it there.
I think what I don't know. What I keep thinking about as I'm listening to you is, uh, it is amazing when you really put your heart and soul into this. I mean, you were selling out of the back of your car. I mean,
Yes.
you've been through every humbling experience that a person could go through. And what I kept thinking about is, this is why I think it's so important that we all really strive to get to a point where we get some financial freedom in our life.
Yeah.
And because I feel like financial freedom gives you peace in a sense of like I always think about, I mean, generally a guy that's got some financial freedom, he's pretty, set financially. He's
Hmm.
not going to rob your house. You know, he's not going to hopefully he doesn't do crack cocaine. You know what I mean? Especially if he's, got his mind right and he's been self-improving and he's, I just think that there's so many people that they're struggling financially. And
Hmm.
those are the ones that tend to go. I mean, I just got I was parked in front of a house in Century City a couple of weeks ago. They stole
Got
my
a ticket.
laptop. They
Oh,
stole my passport. Are you kidding me, man? I mean, they stole all the kinds of shit out of my car. And, but it's like, I just think it's so important that people get their money right. That's why, I mean, I've been on this mission for 30 years now, trying to, teach people how to get their money right. Because when you
Mhm.
get your money right, because what you were saying is like, there becomes less competition there. Like, I'm not going to explode on somebody at this point in my life. Maybe I would have 20 years ago, but at
Right.
this point in my life, like, I'm, I feel great. I feel happy. I feel
Hmm.
motivated. I want to do good. I want to help people. I can take the time to sit there and have a conversation with somebody, a loving, empathetic conversation with somebody, and say, look, man, this is what you should do. Maybe this is what, like, regardless of what's in it for me financially. And I'll tell you, man, that's a huge human need, right? The human need of contribution and giving
Yeah.
back and trying to do good, and that feeling of love. I mean, who doesn't have a better life when they have love in their life?
Hmm.
And I just so I what you're saying makes a lot of sense to me, and it just reminded me that we should all make sure that we try to get to that point, because I think once you do, you start living in a little bit more peace. Not that my life's perfect, far from perfect, but it's
Hmm.
just a lot more perfect than it was years and years ago, where, all I was trying to do is get financially free. But man, when you get there, the freedom, choices, and options are definitely, I think they're important for our soul. What was it
Hmm.
like, though, selling out of the back of your car, and, see, what was it like? You're making prototypes and seamstress
I,
down the street and all this. Like, what was that like?
I actually, I would say my experience has been very different than yours. I wasn't trying at that point. When I started the company, I was dealing with a lot of mental health issues. I'd had a mental breakdown. Still was dealing with the meltdowns from that. That's when I went into the anxiety attack that put me into temporary paralysis. Um, but I came to understand while I was doing that it's not the money, because I didn't have any money. I mean, I had to apply for 13 different loans before I finally got one. And I didn't have credit. I had no financial um, savvy at all. Even though we had built a $36 million companies, I was good at writing scripts. I was really good at delegating talent. I was really good at communicating and celebrating people. I was good at the creative stuff. I was not great at building a business. That was my husband's thing, and he was really good with building out the structure, the infrastructure, and how it could work and how it could scale. I was, go find the talent, go bring the talent in, keep them motivated. That was me. I was great with that. And ad copy. I'm really good at ad copy too. So I was like not in a position for any of that when I was selling out of my trunk. Um, and it took me 6 months of going to a seamstress to even get my prototype. I didn't have any money. I was selling my jewelry to even feed my kids and also go to this anger management program that I was in. Everything was just, it was like everything costs money, but I was like finding ways to make things work little by little, just step by step. And for me, I don't believe, and I lived it. We were rags to riches because my husband was broke when I met him. And then, after seven failed businesses, our eighth business took off. But and I stayed with him through all of that. And then he left, ironically, after everything got really successful. And it was like my worst nightmare. But what I learned in that experience, especially given what my friend Dr. Wooten had said, um, you know, money doesn't make a man, it reveals him. You know, I understand and understood while I was selling out of my trunk and while I had no money and I was still working at a gym, selling memberships and side hustling, doing nutrition plans and training people. So I had like four different side hustles, and then I had a job. And my jumpsuits were a side hustle at that point. So um, while I was also selling at a fashion retailer at the mall. So I mean, and it was all athletic wear. But I wanted to build all of this. And what I learned was, my husband had all the freedom with all the money, but he acted like a dick. He was a piece of shit. And then he left his family and now he has nothing. Um, he lost everything within
But
4 years.
what happened to the business? I mean, where did that go?
Um,
This
he
multi-million dollar business.
unfortunately, while we were going through our divorce, I was not involved in anything, and there was a lot of fraudulent activity starting to happen, a lot of laziness starting to happen. Our QA team wasn't operating appropriately. They weren't monitoring the calls. People were getting sold bad sales. They weren't getting audited. So, a number of people reported them. The attorney general and the FTC and the CIA literally all came together to investigate about 40 companies throughout the United States, and ours was one of them. And it was called Operation BizOpFlap, and they were looking for companies that sold business opportunities and somewhat, of a pipe dream, I would say. And they were looking to bust them, and not to pull the race card, because I don't think that everything is about race. I think in this particular case it was, because we weren't one of the most lucrative. We were lucrative, but there were others that were 1,000 times more lucrative. My ex-husband was number three on that list out of 40 different companies in the United States. He was black. So I don't in any way, shape, or form feel like that should be ignored. I'm not saying that he didn't do anything wrong, but for him to be three on that list when we were as small as we were and the level of scalability that this industry had seen with other companies was like, wow, really? So I think our state attorney general in Arizona, which is traditionally known for having a lot of those types of undercurrent issues in their systems, the attorney general had a hard on for that particular thing, and so he was really highlighted in these investigations. And when he lost everything, they took the businesses, they took the houses. I fortunately, this is by the grace of God, was safe. My divorce had already ensued, and the house that I bought was in my name. So it
Okay.
was not touchable.
Good.
Nothing was touchable. It wasn't under the company name. The company was all, he did everything in his name. So I had no access to control any of the money. That's why I wasn't getting child support, because I couldn't access my own. I helped build what we had, but I couldn't even access it.
Right.
I was subject to his, it was all contingent to his discretion and what he wanted to give. And he didn't want to give shit. And
Wow.
so he lost everything. That's what happened with it. So
Okay. So then, after all said and done, where did this idea of the drop cut, right? And then I mean, I don't know. I'm guessing like you just had to go to the bathroom really, really bad. And you're like, I gotta figure out a solution. Cause seriously, I mean, I think about this sometimes, like how do those women, they have these things that are like full
mhm.
on, and then
I'm wearing
you
one.
gotta just completely get undressed, right? I mean,
Yes. Yes.
so you gotta take off everything and then yeah. So is that what happened? And how the hell did nobody ever think about this before? I mean,
Well, like I said, when I was selling it out of my car, I just felt like, this is freedom. Like I have three side hustles, I have a job, and I have three kids, and I have no credit, and I have no money. But you know what? Every time a woman would see me wearing my jumpsuit, she'd be like, "Oh my God, I love your jumpsuit." And one lady I remember, she said to me in a cafe, "Oh my God, your jumpsuit just makes me so happy. I love the colors." So anyways, I would always have my little rolly case in the back of my car, and I'd be like, here, and I give the jumpsuits to women. I get them into the bathroom and be like, here, go ahead and try this one on. And they would buy them on the spot at cafes, at restaurants, whatever.
wow.
So that was how I sold it. And then at gyms and locker rooms. And every time someone would compliment me, I would build a new relationship. And that's what I found with On the Mark jumpsuit, was that I was able to build relationships, not just dress women up in clothes that they thought they looked hot in, although they do feel pretty sexy when they put them on. Um, I was able to simplify their
So
lives.
what's
And
different about it? What's different about it? Like why
yeah,
is your jumpsuit better than some other jumpsuit?
well, that's why we would go in the bathrooms, because I'd go put it on and then just put the back down like you have to go to the bathroom. So I would tell them, It was designed and engineered. This is patent pending. It's called the drop cut. It's literally cut to be dropped. So when you have to go to the bathroom, this stretches, pulls all the way down. It's made from really fabulous combination of specific types of threads. We use a special type of stitching and a specific type of elastic that's not typically used in fashion. So I married these properties together in a certain cut so that it would be easily engineered for a quick drop and return. And I
What?
wanted it to have really great
What
quality.
an
So
idea,
that's where
though.
it came from.
What an idea. I was just thinking, I thought you were going to pull it down right now. And I was getting nervous because I'm thinking this video is going viral now for sure. I was getting really scared. And so, but yeah, this is like, that's revolutionary. That's a big deal. I mean,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
Well, I think that what it came from, and this is what I was alluding to earlier, is my husband seemed to have the freedom after he had the money, but like he acted like an ass, right? Whereas I had the freedom with no money and three kids at home and dealing with all these, insurmountable stresses in my life. I had no money, but I had the most freedom I'd ever had. So I've coined this phrase now that the only freedom you get from financial freedom is the freedom you had that helped you get the bag.
Wow.
If you don't get the bag with freedom, you will be a fucking slave to the money for the rest of your life. And then welcome to being a crackhead, but the carrot looks different. You're just chasing money and success, and they're chasing crack. It's not any different. It's the same cycle because, again, my freedom came from starting to do the work. Doing the work meant I had to take full and complete ownership for everything in my life. Not to say that I'm accountable for other people's behaviors, but I had to be accountable for mine. I had to be at that, like I said, at that rock bottom point where I was suicidal. I was on Klonopin. I was having all these different health issues. I had a mental breakdown. But when I was there, I realized I'm at the mercy of one thing. And I'm not a religious person. So I don't, I use the term God because it's very universally understood. I'm not a religious person. I'm not a Christian. I don't have a faith. I don't profess any indoctrination of any sort. I just know that whatever it is, it's with me and I trust it implicitly and I lean into it when I don't understand something. I lean into its understanding and I ask for its leadership. When it's talking to me, I notice it in my core. Like I get these like icky feelings and then I notice butterfly feelings. So it's like when you start to clear your body out, and that's where the champion system, which is what I teach in behavioral health and with my one-on-one clients in my program. When you start to work the champion system, the whole methodology of it is hacking your biofeedback loop. Because when you can hack your biofeedback loop, whatever you believe in, whether it's God, Allah, Krishna, Buddhism, whatever it is, you can that higher presence, it can communicate with you when you have all the garbage out of your biofeedback loop. And the biofeedback loop consists of the brain, the nervous system, and the body, and how those three work together in synchronicity, along with your gut brain, your heart brain, and your head brain. When those are all synchronized, everything is harmonious. You can hear it so much more clearly. And I think that as I did more and more of the work, I could hear that voice more clearly. And that's what led me and kept me now for 10 years on this journey with On the Mark, because they still haven't made it into a multi-million-dollar company yet. I'm still working on it. But I just did a licensing deal, which I'm sure Mike told you about. And so I licensed the technology to another company. And my mission is to just keep capitalizing on the mark so I can keep building relationships just like I did when I was selling out of the back of my car, because I have no interest in being a fashion brand that diminishes the essence or the value of the essence of a woman. I have a need, a drive, a mission calling to really uplift women, to connect with them through authenticity, and to really celebrate each unique essence that every woman has and celebrate her exactly where she is, who she is, as exactly who she is called to be. And so I listen for that calling on how to take those steps every day. I'm looking to be an expression of celebration, not to celebrate myself and be like, woohoo, look at me. I'm a fashion designer. I'm so cool. I don't want to be on the cover of a fashion magazine like Vera Wang. I mean, I love Vera Wang. Don't get me wrong. I have one of her dresses. I think she's great. But I would never insult Vera Wang and say, I'm a fashion designer. I have no desire to do that. I am a problem solver. And I did this, what I did with this jumpsuit. I did it to solve a problem. And it came at a time where I was going through a lot of pain, a lot of struggle. But through that, depression and chaos and suicidal tendencies that I was experiencing, all those things, and then getting into anger management. It's like through doing the work through those programs. I'm in CODA. I'm still in CODA today, Codependency Anonymous. Through those programs and through not ever returning to drugs or alcohol, because that was my vice from 11 to 17. I was a chronic alcohol and drug user, to the point of blackout. So when you're a 14-year-old girl and you're blacking out, you know, rape. I was raped twice during blackouts. Those are not, people are like, well, were you really an alcoholic then? I'm like, well, if you get raped twice because you're drunk and because you're around a rapist, probably you're an alcohol, you probably have a problem with alcohol. So, you know,
what I see, just if my thoughts here, I mean, I think you're going to build $1 billion brand. I mean, honestly, like I think this is going to be $1 billion deal.
thank
And
you.
there's no question it solves a big problem. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a woman. Obviously, I'm not going to be your client, but I, I mean, it's just common sense to me. If I was a
Well, if you have a
woman,
girlfriend, you might be my client.
there you go. There you go. And so I just seriously, I mean, what woman would not want at least one of your jumpsuits, if not the whole line of them? But I mean, if you're gonna buy a jumpsuit, why would you not buy one that you don't have to take off completely to use the restroom? I mean, everybody has to use the restroom, so it just makes
Yeah,
100% sense to me. I think you're going to be $1 billion brand. I'm excited right
thank
now
you.
because I'm interviewing you, and one day you're going to be on like the cover of Forbes magazine. Okay, not some
Your mouth to
stupid
God's ears.
fashion magazine. What's that?
I said from your mouth to God's ears.
No. I mean, I totally see it. I mean, this is going to be $1 billion brand. You're going to be on the cover of Forbes magazine one day. All I'm asking is I get invited to like one of your swanky parties or something like that up in your multi-million dollar mansion. So, but no, seriously, I see great things happening for you. You should be very, very proud of you because I'm from a guy that's been in self-improvement for over 30 years, maybe a little bit longer now. I can see the work that you're putting in. I can see the transformation that you have created in your life. I'm watching this in real time right now, and
Thank
it's
you.
awesome. It's awesome. You're an inspiration to not just women but men, because there's a
Thank
bunch
you.
of pansy guys out there that like wouldn't go sell out of the back of their truck because they're too
Right.
scared about what people think about them. But you know what? These guys, they have families. And I would
Mhm.
do anything, by the way. Like as long I used to tell people, I used to tell my agents, I own a financial services company, 1,500
Okay.
agents, 60 locations, and it's been passive income for me for 22 years now, or something like that.
Wow. That's fantastic.
I've been living free for a very, very long time. But I've been telling my agents for years that, look, I'll do whatever as long as it's legal, ethical, and moral. I will do whatever is necessary to provide for my family, to take care of my children, to make sure that the bills are paid, to make sure that we have investments, to make sure my parents are taken care of if they need something.
Mhm.
My friends, I want to be generous. I mean, so bottom line is that you're a testament to somebody that is so fucking mentally tough and so willing to do what's necessary. Fuck what anybody thinks about you. Fuck what anybody says about you. As long as you're getting the job done, that's what matters. And as long as you're making an impact, on a positive impact on the world, who cares about what anybody else says? And I wanted to
Agree.
leave our audience with that, and then also how we can get a hold of you and how we can reach out. Because I know there's a lot of women right now that they're saying, look, I just want to tell Nita that, she's awesome. And they're going to send you a DM and they're going to say you're awesome. And they're going to, leave a comment on our YouTube video here, or maybe say something on Spotify or iTunes or wherever they're going to see us or hear us. And I want them to reach out to you and just say, well done, man. Well done.
Thank
That's
you.
awesome. And we're very, very
Thank you.
proud of you for everything that's
Thank
happened in
you.
your life. And we'll be rooting for you every step of the way. So tell us how we can connect.
You could go to first if you want to get a jumpsuit for a gift as a gift for a woman in your life if you're a man. And if you're a woman and you'd like to shop with us, please use my code NITA NITA 30 for a 30% discount right off the bat. And you could go to On the Mark Jumpsuit, and that's On the Mark with a Q because my last name is Marquez. So that's what the name is after. OnTheMarkJumpsuit.com. You can also find out more about my Champion Life System for addiction recovery at championlifesystem.com or onthemark.com. That's for my one-on-one programs. And then if you are interested in reaching out to me directly, you can find me on socials at FitNita, FITNITA, on Instagram, facebook.com/FitNita, and then FitNita on TikTok.
You are a badass. So congratulations on all your success. What a great conversation. I loved it. Just everybody that's watching, listening, like I said, please reach out to Nita and just, say, we appreciate you. Thank you so much. You're an inspiration to all of us. And make sure you like and comment and subscribe and all that good stuff. And, buy something from her. Go get something. Go, go buy a gift for somebody.
Christmas is coming.
Trust me. Yeah. Christmas is coming, but you know what? It's important to help small business owners. It's all, like if somebody's doing a great job, you should try to support them. You should try to, give them some business, let them know that they're doing a great job. And again, worst case scenario, you send a little message and you say, you're a badass and you're awesome, because I believe what, the universe, it just keeps, the more you put out, the more you get. And everybody wants, but they never want to give out. They never want to, help somebody else or push somebody up. And because they're thinking, if I push somebody up, that's going to take away from me. Well, that's bullshit. The more you put out, the more you help somebody else, the more you get back. And so
I agree.
With that said, everybody, continue to dream bigger than ever. Get after it. You got to get after it. You got to work hard. You got to put in the work. You got to stay mentally tough. And most importantly, do it now. God bless you. We will see you at the top.